Ethan Miller stood frozen at the dining table set for four, as his boss's mother embraced him like family. "Finally, meeting my daughter's boyfriend," she said, voice thick with emotion. Ethan had never dated her. He didn't even know he was in love with anyone. In that moment, a single father faced a choice: expose his boss's lie and lose everything, or play the role of a man he'd never dared to become. He chose. And that choice would shake the powerful family standing before him. The alarm went off at 5:47 a.m. Ethan Miller didn't need it. He'd been awake since 5:30, listening to the rain against the window of their small apartment in Fremont. He padded barefoot into the kitchen, measuring coffee grounds with the same precision he used for design layouts at work. The machine gurgled to life. Outside, Seattle was still dark, the kind of November darkness that made 7 a.m. feel like midnight. By 6:15, he was at Emma's door. "Morning, Dragon Keeper," he whispered. She stirred, 4 years old and small beneath her constellation blanket. Her stuffed dragon, Sir Chomps-a-Lot, was wedged under her chin. "5 more minutes," she mumbled. "I'll make chocolate chip pancakes." Her eyes opened. With the faces? With the faces. She was dressed by 6:30. Ethan had learned to lay out clothes the night before. Purple leggings, the sweater with the cat on it, socks that matched. He brushed her hair while she ate, working through tangles with practiced gentleness. "Daddy, can Sir Chomps have a pancake? Dragons eat treasure, not pancakes." But he's hungry. Ethan broke off a corner of his own pancake, placed it on a napkin beside the dragon. Emma beamed. They left at 7:20. Ethan's messenger bag over one shoulder, Emma's backpack over the other. The walk to Willow Creek Preschool took 12 minutes. Emma held his hand the entire way, narrating an elaborate story about Sir Chomps fighting an evil wizard who turned people into broccoli. "And then what happened?" Ethan asked. "Sir Chomps breathed fire and saved everyone. Except the wizard. He turned into a carrot." "That's rough." At the preschool gate, Miss Carla was already waiting. Emma ran to her, then turned back. "Daddy, you'll be here at 5:30? "Always am." "Promise?" "Promise." He watched her disappear into the bright chaos of the classroom, then checked his watch. 7:47. The bus came at 7:52. Work started at 8:30. He'd be there by 8:15, same as always. This was his life. Measured, predictable, built around Emma. It had been this way for 2 years, since the accident that took Melissa. He didn't think about that morning anymore. The call from the hospital, the waiting room, the moment everything stopped. He thought about Emma, about 5:30 pickups, about chocolate chip pancakes with faces. The bus arrived. Ethan climbed on, found his usual seat, and pulled out his tablet. He had a logo revision due by noon for a coffee startup called Bean Theory. The client wanted more energetic but also sophisticated. Translation: they didn't know what they wanted. He sketched 3 variations before his stop. Harrison & Co. studio occupied the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in Capitol Hill. It was the kind of place that looked effortlessly cool. Exposed brick, plants everywhere, standing desks, a coffee bar that served oat milk lattes. Ethan had worked there for 3 years. He was good at his job. Not brilliant, not innovative, but reliable. He met deadlines. His work was clean, professional, exactly what clients asked for. He also left at 5 p.m. every single day. This made him an anomaly. "Morning, Miller," Jake called from the coffee bar. Jake was a junior designer, 24. Always the first one in and the last one out. "You see the email about the Hendricks pitch?" "Yeah. Looks ambitious. Claire wants it done by Thursday." "Team meeting at 9. Ethan nodded, set his bag down at his desk. His workspace was the only one without personal items. No photos, no plants, no motivational quotes on sticky notes. Just his monitor, his tablet, and a cup of pens. He opened his laptop. 17 emails since yesterday. He sorted through them methodically. Client revisions, team updates, A reminder about next month's all-hands meeting. Then he saw it. Subject: Dinner Thursday. From Claire Harrison. Ethan, I'm having a small dinner at my place this Thursday at 7 p.m. Would appreciate if you could make it. Let me know. CH. He read it twice. Claire Harrison didn't do small dinners. She did client meetings, strategy sessions, quarterly reviews. She definitely didn't invite individual employees to her home. He should decline. Thursday was Emma's night. But you didn't say no to Claire Harrison. He typed back. I'll need to arrange childcare, but I should be able to make it. Then he deleted it and wrote, should be fine. Thanks for the invite. He hit send before he could overthink it. Claire Harrison arrived at 9:03 a.m., 3 minutes after the meeting was supposed to start. No one mentioned it. She was 36, though she could have passed for younger. Dark hair always pulled back, tailored blazer, heels that clicked with purpose across the concrete floors. She didn't smile unless it served a function. Morning, she said, setting her coffee down. Let's talk Hendrix. The Hendrix Corporation was a tech company trying to rebrand after a PR disaster. They wanted to seem human-centered despite laying off 300 people in one email. We need authentic, Claire said. But polished. Accessible but premium. You know the drill. Jake jumped in with ideas. So did Priya, their art director. They talked about color psychology, about narrative arc, about emotional resonance. Ethan listened. He'd learned that silence was sometimes more valuable than contribution. When Claire finally looked at him, he was ready. I think we need to focus on their employees, not their product, he said. Real faces, real stories. Make the company feel human, because humans work there. Claire considered this. It's been done. It works when it's genuine. Can we make it genuine in 3 weeks? If we find the right people to feature, yes. She nodded once. You'll lead the employee profile section. Coordinate with Hendrix's HR. I want a deck by Monday. The meeting ended at 9:47. As people filed out, Claire caught Ethan's eye. Good. It's important. What's the occasion? She paused, her expression unreadable. We'll discuss it then. Then she was gone, heels clicking toward her office. Jake appeared at Ethan's shoulder. Dude, dinner at Claire's place? That's either really good or really bad. Probably bad. Maybe she's promoting you. I leave at 5 every day. She's not promoting me. Fair point. Ethan returned to his desk. He had client calls at 11 and 2, the Bean Theory revision to finalize, and now the Hendrix employee profile to start planning. He worked steadily, the way he always did, breaking tasks into manageable pieces. At noon, he ate lunch at his desk. Leftover pasta from Emma's dinner, an apple, water. At 2:15, the client call went long. A restaurant owner couldn't decide between 2 versions of his menu design. Ethan walked him through the differences patiently, then recommended the cleaner option. The client agreed. At 4:45, Ethan started packing up. Jake looked over. Leaving early? It's almost 5. Yeah. But Hendrix. I'll work on it tomorrow morning. He was out the door at 4:58. The bus was crowded. He stood, gripping the overhead rail, thinking about Thursday. Claire's dinner. What did important mean? Was he being let go? Promoted? Reprimanded for something? No. If she was firing him, she'd do it in her office, quick and clean. This was something else. At Willow Creek, Emma was waiting at the gate with Miss Carla. Daddy! She ran to him, and he caught her, lifting her up despite the fact that she was getting too big for it. How was your day, Dragon Keeper? We made volcanoes. With baking soda. Mine exploded everywhere. Sounds dangerous. It was awesome. They walked home the same route they always took. Emma chattered about volcanoes, about her friend Marcus who ate paste, about Sir Chomps needing a friend. Can we get another dragon? She asked. What kind? A blue one. Sir Chomps needs a sidekick. I'll see what I can find. Dinner was mac and cheese with steamed broccoli. Emma negotiated eating 3 pieces of broccoli in exchange for a cookie. Ethan accepted the terms. Bath time was at 7, story time at 7:30. He read from a book about a bear who couldn't sleep, doing the voices the way Emma liked. "Daddy? Yeah? You're the best daddy in the whole world." Something in his chest tightened. "You're the best Emma in the whole world. There's only one Emma." Exactly. She fell asleep by 8:15. Ethan watched her for a moment, then closed the door halfway, the way she preferred. In the living room, he opened his laptop. He still needed to email several HR contacts at Hendrix. He drafted 3 messages, sent them, then started sketching layout concepts for the employee profiles. At 10:30, he finally closed the laptop. Thursday, 2 days away. He'd figure out childcare tomorrow. Maybe ask his neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She'd watched Emma a few times before. He went to bed just after 11, setting his alarm for 5:47. Wednesday morning began the same as every other morning. Coffee at 6, pancakes at 6:30. Willow Creek by 7:35. Ethan arrived at work at 8:12. Jake was already at his desk, headphones on, working on mock-ups. Priya was in the kitchen, arguing with the espresso machine. Ethan checked his email. 4 responses from Hendrix HR. Good. He'd need to schedule interviews by next week. At 10:30, Claire emerged from her office. "Ethan?" "Quick word?" He followed her into the glass-walled conference room. She closed the door. "Tomorrow night," she said. 7 p.m. "My address is in the calendar invite I just sent. It's in Madison Park." "Okay." Dress is business casual. Nothing too formal, but not jeans. "Got it." She hesitated, which was unusual for her. Claire Harrison didn't hesitate. "There's something you should know," she said. "It's a dinner with my parents." Ethan blinked. "Your parents?" "They're in town for a few days. They wanted to meet some people from the company." "Why me?" "Because you're talented, and they're curious about the team." This made no sense. Claire kept her personal life completely separate from work. In 3 years, Ethan had never heard her mention family, much less invite them to meet employees. "Claire, if this is about the Hendrix project, I can present remotely. It's not about work." "Then what?" "Just be there tomorrow." 7 p.m. "I've arranged for someone to watch Emma." He froze. "What?" "Mrs. Chen, your neighbor. I called her this morning. She said yes." The room felt smaller suddenly. "You called my neighbor? You need childcare. I provided a solution. You had no right." "Ethan." Her voice was sharp now, the tone that ended discussions. "This is important. For both of us. I need you there." "Claire." 7 p.m. "Don't be late." She left the conference room, heels clicking across the floor. Ethan stood there, hands clenched. This wasn't a request. It was a command, and somehow, she'd backed him into a corner where refusing meant something he couldn't quite define but knew wasn't good. Jake appeared at the conference room door. "Everything okay?" "Fine. You look like you want to punch something." "I'm fine." He wasn't. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Ethan texted Mrs. Chen. "Did Claire Harrison contact you about watching Emma tomorrow?" The response came quickly. "Yes, such a lovely young woman. She said you have an important work dinner. Of course I'll watch Emma. Don't you worry." He stared at the phone. Claire had gone over his head, arranged his childcare, eliminated his excuse to decline. What was this dinner? He looked up Claire's address. Madison Park. The homes there started at $2 million. He thought about texting her, demanding an explanation. But he knew Claire. She'd say exactly what she'd already said. Be there at 7 p.m. He set an alarm on his phone, 1 hour before pickup time. He'd need to go home, change, drop Emma at Mrs. Chen's. Thursday. Tomorrow. He went to bed uneasy. Thursday moved too fast. Morning routine. Willow Creek. Work. The Hendricks interviews scheduled. Lunch at his desk. More emails. At 4:30, Ethan left the office. Jake called after him, something about the Hendricks deck, but Ethan was already moving. He picked up Emma at 5:15, earlier than usual. "We're going fast today," he told her on the walk home. "Daddy has a work thing. Mrs. Chen's going to watch you for a couple hours. Can I bring Sir Chomps?" "Of course." At home, he changed quickly. Dark slacks, a button-down shirt in pale blue, the blazer he wore to client pitches. He checked himself in the mirror. Business casual, appropriate, he looked terrified. Emma was eating apple slices at the kitchen table when he emerged. "You look fancy," she said. "It's a work dinner. With your boss?" "Yeah." "The scary lady?" "She's not scary." Emma gave him a look that said she didn't believe him. At 6:20, they walked down the hall to Mrs. Chen's apartment. She answered immediately, already smiling. "Emma." Come in, come in." "I made dumplings." Emma's eyes widened. She loved Mrs. Chen's dumplings. "I'll be back by 9, Ethan said. "Take your time, dear. We'll be fine." Emma hugged him. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, Dragon Keeper." He took the bus to Madison Park. The neighborhood changed as they drove. Larger homes, manicured lawns, views of Lake Washington. Claire's address was a modern 2-story house set back from the street, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of place featured in architectural magazines. Ethan checked his watch. 6:57 p.m. He walked up the stone pathway, rang the doorbell. Claire answered almost immediately. She was dressed differently than at work. A black dress, simple but elegant. Her hair down for the first time he'd ever seen. "You're early," she said. 3 minutes. "Good." She stepped aside. The interior was exactly what he expected. Minimalist furniture, abstract art, a kitchen that looked like it had never been used. Everything was white or gray or black, every surface spotless. "They're in the dining room," Claire said quietly. "Claire, you need to tell me what's happening." "I will. After dinner." "That's not, Ethan." She looked at him directly, and for the first time, he saw something like fear in her eyes. "Please, just follow my lead." Before he could respond, a voice called from deeper in the house. "Claire? Is that him?" "Coming, Mom," Claire called back. She took his arm, and led him through a hallway into a dining room where a table was set for 4. 2 people stood as they entered. The woman was in her early 60s, warm-faced, wearing a burgundy sweater. The man was older, tall, wearing a suit despite being in his daughter's home. His expression was neutral, assessing. "Mom, Dad," Claire said. "This is Ethan Miller." Her mother moved forward immediately, pulling Ethan into a hug before he could react. "Finally meeting my daughter's boyfriend," she said, voice rich with emotion. "Claire talks about you constantly." The world tilted. "Boyfriend." Ethan looked at Claire. She wasn't looking at him. "It's so wonderful to meet you," her mother continued. "I'm Patricia." Richard extended a hand. His grip was firm, his eyes measuring. "Ethan," Richard said. "Claire's told us quite a bit about you." Ethan shook his hand automatically, his mind racing. Boyfriend. Claire hadn't invited him to meet co-workers. She'd invited him to meet her parents, as her boyfriend. She'd lied to them, used him, trapped him. He should say something, correct this, walk out. But Patricia was already ushering him to the table, asking about his drive, commenting on the weather. Richard was watching him with the focus of a man who assessed threats for a living, and Claire was pouring water into glasses, her hands steady, her face composed. Ethan sat down. He'd made his choice. The first course was a butternut squash soup, served in white bowls that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly groceries. "Claire made this herself," Patricia said proudly. "She's become quite the cook." Ethan tasted it. It was good. Too good. Clearly catered. "It's delicious," he said. Claire met his eyes across the table. "Thank you," her expression said. Richard cleared his throat. "So, Ethan, Claire tells us you're a designer." "Yes." "Graphic design, primarily branding work, and you work at Harrison & Co. for 3 years now. That's how you met. At the office." It wasn't a question, but Ethan nodded anyway. Patricia jumped in. "How romantic. I met Richard at work too. He was my boss, actually." She laughed. "Scandalous for the time." "Not so scandalous anymore," Richard said dryly. He turned back to Ethan. "Though I imagine there are still policies about that sort of thing. Fraternization." "Dad," Claire said quietly, "I'm just curious about how modern companies handle workplace relationships." Ethan took a sip of water, buying time. "Harrison & Co. doesn't have strict policies as long as there's no direct reporting relationship, and Claire is your boss. She's the creative director. I'm on her team. Seems like a gray area." "Richard," Patricia said gently. "Let them eat." But Richard wasn't finished. He had the demeanor of a man used to asking questions and getting answers. Ethan recognized the type, successful, powerful, convinced that interrogation was a form of conversation. "What did you do before Harrison & Co.?" Richard asked. "Freelance design work." "Before that, I was at a smaller agency in Portland." "Portland? That's where you're from?" "Originally, yes." "What brought you to Seattle?" The question hung in the air. Ethan felt Claire tense beside him. "My wife's family was here," he said. "We moved up 4 years ago." Patricia's eyes widened slightly. "Your wife? Ex-wife?" Richard asked. Ethan set down his spoon carefully. "She passed away 2 years ago." The silence was immediate and heavy. "Oh my God," Patricia whispered. "Ethan, I'm so sorry." "It's okay." "No, it's not. We had no idea." "Claire?" "You didn't." "I didn't know all the details," Claire said quickly. Which was true, actually. Richard's expression had shifted, something like respect creeping in. "That must have been difficult." "It was. And you have a child," Claire mentioned. "A daughter, Emma. She's 4. Patricia reached across the table, touching his hand. "You're raising her alone? That's incredibly hard. You must be exhausted." Ethan managed to smile. "Some days more than others." "How do you manage work and parenting?" "Carefully. I have a strict schedule. Emma comes first." "As she should," Patricia said firmly. She looked at Claire. "You didn't tell us he was a widower with a young daughter." "I wanted you to meet him first," Claire said, "without preconceptions." Richard was still watching Ethan. "You leave work at 5 every day." It wasn't a question. Claire had told them. "Yes," Ethan said. "No late nights. No weekend work. Not unless absolutely necessary." Ambitious. The word was loaded. A test. Ethan held his gaze. "I'm ambitious about being Emma's father." Richard leaned back in his chair. "Fair enough." The soup bowls were cleared. A salad appeared. Ethan had no memory of who served it. Patricia tried to lighten the mood. "So, tell us about Emma. What's she like?" This, at least, was easy. Ethan talked about her love of dragons, her stories, her volcanic enthusiasm for everything. Patricia laughed in all the right places. Even Richard's expression softened slightly. "She sounds wonderful," Patricia said. Claire hesitated for a fraction of a second. "She's special. When do we get to meet her?" "I'm just asking. If you and Ethan are serious, we should meet his daughter." "We're taking things slow," Claire said. "How long have you been seeing each other?" Another pause. "A few months. And you're already introducing him to us? That doesn't sound slow." Claire's jaw tightened. "I wanted you to meet him." The question was direct, affectionate, but pointed. Patricia was smiling, but her eyes were sharp. Because he's important to me, Claire said. Something in her voice made Ethan look at her. She wasn't lying anymore. At least, not about that. Richard cut into his salad with precision. Ethan, what are your long-term plans? Career-wise, I'm focused on building my skills, doing good work. Not interested in moving up? Art director? Creative director? Eventually, maybe. Maybe. I have other priorities right now. Your daughter. What happens when she's older? Starts school full-time. Needs you less. Ethan set down his fork. She'll never need me less. The needs just change. But you'll have more time. More flexibility. Possibly. And then what? Will you be satisfied being a mid-level designer forever? The room went quiet. Claire was staring at her father. Dad, that's enough. I'm just asking about his ambitions. You're being rude. I'm being honest. These are questions you should have asked yourself. This isn't your business. You're my daughter. Of course it's my business. Ethan spoke before he could stop himself. Mr. Harrison, may I answer the question? Richard turned to him. Please, no. I probably won't be satisfied being a mid-level designer forever. But I also won't sacrifice time with Emma to climb a ladder. If that makes me unambitious in your eyes, I can live with that. Can my daughter? Dad? Claire said sharply. It's a valid question, Claire. You're driven. You're building an empire. Can you really see yourself with someone who leaves at 5 every day and calls that enough? Claire's face was pale. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. But I didn't raise you to settle. Patricia touched her husband's arm. Richard. I'm looking out for her. By insulting her guest? In her own home? Richard fell silent, but his expression didn't change. The main course arrived. Some kind of chicken with roasted vegetables. No one ate. Ethan's appetite was gone, but he forced himself to cut into the chicken. The knife scraped against the plate, too loud in the silence. Patricia tried again. Ethan, tell me more about Emma. What does she like to do? He was grateful for the redirect. She's really into imaginary play. Dragons, mostly. She has this stuffed dragon named Sir Chomps-a-Lot. They have adventures. That's adorable. Is she in preschool? Yes. Willow Creek, in Fremont. And how is she doing after losing her mother? The question was gentle, but it still landed heavy. Ethan set down his fork. She was 2 when it happened. She doesn't remember much, just images, feelings. Does she ask about her? Sometimes, usually at bedtime. I have pictures of Melissa around the apartment. We talk about her when Emma wants to. That must be hard for you. It's necessary. Emma deserves to know her mother. Richard spoke up, his tone less aggressive now. How did your wife die, if you don't mind me asking? Ethan minded. But he also understood the question. Richard was still assessing him, just from a different angle now. Car accident, Ethan said. She was driving home from work. A truck ran a red light. Jesus, Richard murmured. She died before the ambulance arrived. Patricia's eyes were wet. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. You adjust, Ethan said quietly. You have to. Emma needed me to adjust. Still. Raising a child alone, working full-time. That's incredibly difficult. It is. Do you have family nearby? Parents? Siblings? My parents are in Arizona. We visit once a year. No siblings. Melissa's family? Her parents passed before we met. She had a brother in California. We're not close, so it's just you and Emma. The word hung in the air. Just. Claire was looking at him differently now, like she was seeing something she hadn't expected. That's why you leave at 5, Patricia said softly. To pick her up. Every day? Every single day. I promised her I would. After Melissa died, Emma was terrified I'd disappear too. So I promised. I'd always be there. 5:30, every day, at the preschool gate. And you've kept that promise? For 2 years. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's admirable. It's just being a parent. It's more than that. Many men in your position would have made different choices. Remarried quickly, leaned on family, pulled back from parenting. I didn't have those options. And I didn't want them. Why not? Ethan looked directly at Richard. Because Emma lost one parent, I wasn't going to let her feel like she'd lost both. The silence was different now. Heavier, but not hostile. Patricia wiped her eyes. Claire, you didn't tell us any of this. I didn't know most of it, Claire said quietly. How is that possible? You've been dating for months. We don't. We haven't talked about everything yet. Richard's eyes narrowed. That's odd, don't you think? You introduce him to your parents, but you barely know his story. I'm just saying it's unusual. Claire's composure cracked. Fine. You want the truth? We haven't been dating for months. We've barely dated at all. The room went still. What? Patricia said. Ethan works for me. We're colleagues. That's it. Ethan's stomach dropped. Richard leaned forward. Claire, what are you talking about? I told you we were together because you've been pressuring me about relationships for years. Every visit, every phone call. When are you going to settle down, Claire? When are we going to meet someone? You're 36. Time is running out. So, I lied. I picked someone from work and said we were together. Jesus Christ. Richard muttered. Patricia looked stricken. Claire, how could you? How could I what? Make up a boyfriend to get you off my back? Desperate times, Mom. You brought this poor man here under false pretenses. I brought him here because I needed you to see that I could have a relationship, that I wasn't failing at life. We never said you were failing. You didn't have to say it. Ethan stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. 3 pairs of eyes turned to him. I'm going to go, he said. Ethan Claire started. No. This is beyond uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. I shouldn't have come. Wait, Richard said. Sit down. I really should. Please. Something in his voice made Ethan pause. Richard wasn't commanding now. He was asking. Ethan sat. Richard looked at his daughter. Claire, this is a mess, but it's a mess of your making, not his. He was doing you a favor. I know. A pretty significant favor, showing up here, playing along. I know. Why did he do it? Claire looked at Ethan. Richard turned to Ethan. Why did you? Ethan exhaled slowly. Because, she asked. Because I thought it was a work thing and I couldn't say no. Because by the time I realized what was actually happening, it was too late to back out without humiliating everyone. You could have walked out anyway. Your wife had just hugged me. You'd shaken my hand. Walking out would have made it worse. So you stayed, even though you were uncomfortable, even though you didn't owe Claire anything. She's my boss. I owe her professionalism. This isn't professional. No. But it felt cruel to embarrass her in front of you. Richard studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. That says something about your character, or my conflict avoidance. Richard almost smiled. Both, probably. The tension shifted, though it didn't disappear. Patricia excused herself to get dessert, though no one had touched the chicken. She returned with coffee and something chocolate, plated beautifully. Let's start over, she said. No more lies. No more pretense. Just... Mom, I don't think. Claire. Hush. Claire hushed. Patricia poured coffee. Ethan, I apologize for dragging you into our family dysfunction. That wasn't fair to you. It's okay. It's not. But thank you for saying so. She handed him a cup. Now, since we're being honest, I'd like to know. What do you think of my daughter? Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. Professional opinion. You work for her. What's she like as a boss? Mom, Claire said. I'm curious. Ethan set down his cup. She's exacting, demanding. She expects excellence and doesn't accept excuses. Sounds like someone I know, Patricia said, glancing at Richard. But she's also fair, Ethan continued. She pushes people because she believes they can do better, and when someone on the team succeeds, she makes sure they get credit. Does she succeed herself? She's built a highly respected studio in 5 years. So yes, at what cost? The question came from Richard. He was drinking coffee, his expression neutral. I don't understand, Ethan said. What has she sacrificed to build that studio? Personal life? Relationships? Balance? That's her business, not mine. But you've observed it. Of course. Ethan looked at Claire. She was staring at her untouched dessert, her jaw tight. She works constantly, Ethan said carefully. She's always the first one in, last one out. Weekends, holidays. I don't think she knows how to turn it off. Do you respect that? I respect the results, but not the method? I didn't say that. You implied it. Ethan set down his coffee cup. Mr. Harrison, I think you're trying to get me to criticize your daughter. I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to understand if you think her lifestyle is sustainable. Sustainable for what? For happiness, for a life, for a family, if she wanted one. That's for her to decide. But you have an opinion. My opinion doesn't matter. Richard leaned forward. Humor me. Ethan glanced at Claire again. She gave a small nod. It's okay. Answer him. I think, Ethan said slowly, that your daughter is brilliant at what she does. But I also think she's terrified of being seen as anything less than perfect. So she works herself into the ground to maintain that image. And I think that's exhausting. For her. For everyone around her. The silence was absolute. Then Richard said, That's perceptive. It's obvious. Only if you're paying attention. Most people don't. Ethan shrugged. Richard picked up his coffee, took a sip. So, tell me, Ethan. Given everything we've discussed tonight, given that you're a single father with a strict schedule and limited ambitions, given that my daughter is a workaholic perfectionist who doesn't know how to relax, what exactly do you have that's worthy of her? The question hit like a fist. Patricia gasped. Richard, it's a valid question. It's insulting. It's honest. Richard didn't look away from Ethan. She's my only daughter. I want to know what you bring to the table. We're not actually dating, Ethan said. Pretend you are. What do you offer? Ethan felt his face heat. The old shame, familiar and heavy. The shame of not being enough, not earning enough, not achieving enough, not being the kind of man who could provide the life someone like Claire deserved. But then he thought about Emma, about pancakes with faces, about keeping promises, about showing up, every single day, even when he was tired, even when it was hard. You're right, Ethan said quietly. I'm not ambitious. I don't want to be creative director or start my own agency. I leave at 5 every day and I don't apologize for it. That's not an answer. I'm getting there. Ethan met Richard's eyes. What I offer is this. I don't leave. When I commit to something, I stay. When I promise to be somewhere, I'm there. I don't run when things get hard. I don't bail when something better comes along. That's basic decency, not a selling point. It's rarer than you think. It's the minimum. Then the minimum is more than a lot of people get. Richard's expression didn't change. Go on. My daughter is 4 years old. She lost her mother. She's scared all the time that I'll disappear too. So every morning, I make her pancakes. Every afternoon, I pick her up from school. Every night, I read her a story. Not because it's easy, not because I want to, because I promised her I would. And I keep my promises. Admirable. But what does that have to do with Claire? Your daughter works 90 hours a week. She's brilliant and driven and successful. but she's also lonely. I see it. Everyone at the office sees it. She doesn't have friends. She doesn't have hobbies. She doesn't have anyone to make her pancakes or tell her she's allowed to leave early or remind her that success isn't the same as happiness. Patricia was crying openly now. Ethan kept going. So what do I offer? I offer being present. I offer showing up. I offer not running away when someone needs me. I'm not rich. I'm not powerful. I'm not going to build an empire or make millions. But I'm here, every day. And if someone I loved needed me, I'd be there for them the way I'm there for Emma. Without conditions, without scorekeeping, without asking what I get in return. He stopped, breathing hard. Richard was still watching him. Then, slowly, he nodded. That's a good answer, Richard said. Thank you. I didn't say it was enough. Just good. I'm aware. Richard almost smiled. You've got a spine. I wasn't sure earlier. But you do. My spine has been tested a lot in the past 2 years. I believe it. Patricia stood abruptly, walked around the table, and hugged Ethan again. This time, he was ready for it. You're a good man, she whispered. I'm just a dad. That's what makes you good. Patricia released Ethan and returned to her seat, wiping her eyes. The dessert remained untouched. Richard picked up his fork, then set it down again. Claire, she looked up. Yes? Why did you really invite him tonight? I told you. To get you off my back about relationships. No. I mean, why him specifically? You have 30 employees. Why Ethan? Claire was quiet for a long moment. Because he's safe. Safe? He wouldn't judge me. He wouldn't make it weird. He'd just show up and help me through it. How did you know that? Because that's who he is. At work, in meetings. When there's a crisis, he doesn't panic. He just solves the problem. Quietly. Without drama. Richard looked at Ethan. Is that true? I just do my job. Apparently, you do more than that. Ethan didn't respond. Patricia cleared her throat. Claire, honey, are you actually interested in him? Romantically? It's a simple question. It's not that simple. Why not? Because he works for me. Because he has a child. Because his life is completely different from mine. Those aren't reasons. Those are excuses. Claire looked at her mother, then at Ethan. I don't know. It was the most honest thing she'd said all night. Richard pushed back from the table. I think we should call it a night. It's late. Ethan, you need to get home to your daughter. Thank you for coming. And for your patience with us. Ethan stood. Of course. Patricia hugged him again. I hope we see you again. Under better circumstances. Maybe. Richard shook his hand. The grip was still firm, but different. Less a test, more an acknowledgement. Claire walked him to the door. Outside, the Seattle rain had started again, light and steady. Ethan's car was at home. He'd have to take the bus back to Fremont, then walk the 3 blocks to his apartment. Ethan, Claire said. He turned. She was standing in the doorway, backlit by the warm light of her perfect house. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it. For putting you in that position. Why did you really pick me? She hesitated. Because I knew you'd say yes. That's not a good reason. I know. You used me. I know. He should be angry. He was angry. But he was also tired. Monday, he said. We'll talk about this on Monday. Professionally. Okay. Don't ever do something like this again. I won't. He nodded and turned to go. Ethan? He stopped. What you said in there. About showing up. About keeping promises. Did you mean that? He looked back at her. Every word. She nodded slowly. That's what I thought. He walked to the bus stop in the rain. Ethan made it home by 9:15. Mrs. Chen answered his knock immediately. Perfect timing, she said. Emma just fell asleep on the couch. He found her there, curled under a blanket. Sir Chomps-a-Lot tucked under her chin. The TV was playing something animated, volume low. "How was dinner?" Mrs. Chen asked. "Complicated. Work always is. Dear." He lifted Emma carefully. She stirred but didn't wake. "Thank you for watching her. Any time. She's a delight." Back in their apartment, he carried Emma to her room, tucked her in. She muttered something about dragons and volcanoes, then settled. Ethan went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stood at the sink, drinking it. His phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Can we talk? Call me when you can." He stared at the message. It was 9:30 p.m. Emma was asleep. He could call, but he also could ignore it until Monday. He called. She answered immediately. "Hi. Is Emma okay?" "She's asleep." "Good." A pause. "My parents just left." "How are they?" "My dad respects you." "That's rare." "My mom wants to adopt you." "I'm too old to be adopted." "She doesn't care." Silence on the line. Ethan could hear her breathing. "I need to tell you something," Claire said. "When I picked you for this, it wasn't random. And it wasn't just because you'd say yes." "Then why?" "Because I've been watching you. For months. The way you work. The way you are with people. You're good at your job, but you're not hungry for it. Not the way everyone else is. You don't stay late. You don't network. You don't play the game. I can't afford to play games. I have Emma. I know. And I've been jealous of that." "Jealous? You have something to go home to. Someone who needs you. Someone who makes the work mean something." "I don't have that. I just have the work." Ethan sat down at the kitchen table. "Claire, I built everything I have by myself. I proved everyone wrong. My parents, who said I should find a husband before I got too old. My professors, who said women don't succeed in this industry. The clients who didn't take me seriously. I built a successful studio to spite all of them. You should be proud of that." "I am. But I'm also exhausted. And lonely. And tonight, watching you talk about Emma, about showing up, about keeping promises, I realized I don't have anyone I show up for. No one I make pancakes for. No one who needs me the way Emma needs you." "That's not true. Your team needs you. That's professional. It's not the same." "No, it's not." Another silence. "When my dad asked what you had that's worthy of me," Claire said quietly, "he was asking the wrong question. What should he have asked?" "What I have that's worthy of you." Ethan's throat tightened. "Claire, I'm serious. You're a good person, a good father. You care about things that matter. I'm just successful. That's not nothing. It's not enough." He didn't know what to say to that. "I'm sorry," she said again, "for lying to them, for using you, for making you sit through that dinner. I survived. Barely. I've survived worse." She laughed, a small sound. "I guess you have. Claire, can I ask you something? When your mom asked if you were interested in me, romantically, you said you didn't know. Did you mean that?" A long pause. "Yes. Why don't you know?" "Because I don't know how to want something that isn't about work. I don't know how to make space for someone in my life. And I especially don't know how to be with someone who has a child and a completely different way of living. That's honest. It's terrifying." "Yeah. Are you interested?" "In me?" Ethan closed his eyes. "I don't know either." "Why not?" "Because I've spent 2 years putting all my energy into Emma. I don't know if I have anything left for someone else. And I don't know if it's fair to try." "Fair to who?" "To Emma. To whoever I'd be with. To myself." "That's also honest. It's also terrifying." She laughed again. "We're a mess." "Yeah. But you showed up anyway. Tonight. For me." "I did. Thank you." "You're welcome." Neither of them hung up. The silence stretched, comfortable somehow. "I should go," Ethan said finally. "Early morning tomorrow. Pancakes to make. Right, of course. Claire? Yeah? Monday. Let's figure out what this is. Or isn't. Professionally first. Then we can worry about the rest. Okay. He hung up, sat in his kitchen, thought about Claire Harrison, brilliant and lonely, building an empire alone. Thought about Emma, asleep with her dragon. Thought about himself, somewhere between who he'd been and who he might become. At 10:30, he went to bed. Friday morning. Pancakes at 6:30. Willow Creek by 7:35. Ethan arrived at work at 8:15. The office felt normal. Jake at his desk. Priya in the kitchen. The usual rhythm. But Claire's office door was closed. Ethan settled at his desk, opened his laptop. The Hendricks deck needed work. He had 3 client calls scheduled. Normal day. Except it wasn't. At 10, Claire emerged from her office. She walked directly to his desk. Conference room. 5 minutes. She left before he could respond. Ethan saved his work, grabbed his coffee, walked to the glass-walled room. Claire was already there, tablet in front of her, posture perfect. But her hands were shaking slightly. "Close the door," she said. He did. "First," she said, "I want to be clear. Nothing about Thursday night will affect your job. You're not being punished. You're not being demoted." Okay. Second, I'm going to be more careful about boundaries. What I did was inappropriate. It won't happen again. Okay. Third. She stopped, took a breath. "I'd like to get coffee. Outside of work. Just to talk. About nothing. About something. I don't know. But I'd like to try." Ethan blinked. "Coffee?" "Yes, as people. Not boss and employee. Just 2 people who had a weird night and maybe want to understand it better." "When? Tomorrow? Saturday afternoon? I know you have Emma, so maybe. Tomorrow's fine." "She has a play date at 2. I can do 3:30. 3:30. "Where?" "There's a place in Fremont, near my apartment, called The Daily Grind. I'll be there." They looked at each other. "Claire? Yeah? This isn't a date." "I know. We're just talking." "I know, because I'm not ready for more than that. Neither am I. But we're also not pretending anymore. No more pretending." He nodded. Okay. She stood. He did too. At the door, she paused. "Ethan? Yeah? What you said. About showing up. I want to learn how to do that. It's not complicated. You just keep choosing to be there. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard." She nodded slowly. "I'll try. That's all anyone can do." She left the conference room. Ethan watched her return to her office, close the door, sit down at her desk. Through the glass, he saw her shoulders relax slightly. He went back to his own desk. That evening, he picked up Emma at 5:30, exactly on time. "How was your day, Dragon Keeper?" Marcus ate paste again. But this time, it was the purple paste. That's concerning. Miss Carla was very mad. They walked home, made dinner, gave Sir Chomps a bath in the sink, which Emma insisted he needed because he'd fought a spaghetti monster. At bedtime, she asked, "Daddy, are you happy?" The question surprised him. "Why do you ask? You seem different today." "Different how?" "Less tired." He kissed her forehead. "I'm happy. Dragon Keeper. Very happy." "Good. Sir Chomps says you deserve to be happy." Sir Chomps is wise. The wisest dragon ever. After she was asleep, Ethan sat on the couch with his laptop. But instead of working, he found himself thinking about tomorrow. About coffee with Claire. About what they'd talk about. Who they'd be without the performance. He pulled out his phone, texted her. "The Daily Grind. 3:30. I'll be the one not wearing a blazer." Her response came quickly. "I'll be the one who doesn't know how to relax. This will be a disaster. Probably. See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow." He set down the phone. Outside, Seattle was dark and rainy. Inside, Emma was sleeping. Sir Chomps was guarding her. The apartment was small and cluttered and exactly what they needed. Ethan had built a life here. A small one. A careful one. A life that fit around Emma. But maybe, just maybe, there was room for something else too. Not a grand romance. Not a dramatic change. Just coffee with someone who was learning to show up. Just a possibility. He closed his laptop, turned off the lights, went to bed. Tomorrow was Saturday. Pancakes with Emma. Her playdate at Marcus's house. Coffee at 3:30. One day at a time. One promise at a time. Showing up. That's all it was. That's everything.